Is our public hearing. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide interested parties with an opportunity to express their views concerning according to with OCGA section 48-5-32. Ms. Gilbert.
Yes, purpose of this hearing is to take comments on the fact that the council proposes to retain the property millage rate for the upcoming year at 14.05 mils, which is exactly what it is currently and has been for the last few years.
Do we have anyone want to say anything about it? If not, thank you, Ms. Gilbert.
Thank you.
We'll move to item of review and discussion. Our Public Works Department proposed to call the Harris and Legion Park. Harris Park can be called Ms. Aphis is to present.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, on July 30th, Parrish Construction held a bid opening for the Phase 1 construction of Heritage and Legacy Park, and they're here tonight to go over the GMP or the guaranteed maximum price. Scott?
So Kurt's passing out the GMP packet. We just have two short slides here to kind of go through and an overview of what's included in the numbers that we're presenting to you. So it's starting with Heritage Park. Much like the last time we were here, it's essentially the same general layout. I mean, the layout's the same, and everything that we pretty much talked about last time is the same. What is included now, though, is we have taken the alternates for the irrigation for all of the landscape areas here. And then we've got some hydro seeding over here and up here that was included, but we had spoken about that in working through the process that due to the planning time, we need to come and get dressed up next year. So that was basically it there for Heritage that had changed from the last time we were in front of council.
Anybody got any questions about what's included at Heritage? Kind of good to give an overview of some of the stage and everything.
Right, so our stage area is down here. So we've got an electrical allowance that we're carrying for the stage area, and we did that in order to save on some cost and incurring a design fee through the electrical engineer. So we've carried it as allowance to allow the subcontractor to carry that cost burden. And they've been the ones that are helping us with the design here. So we actually reached out to Richard Brent, so with the big house, to kind of give us an idea of what we really were looking for stage-wise, so we could give you guys, an adequate amount of power for the kind of performances that you are looking to put on now, and even some additional for what you may want to grow into in the future. So you'll have two 240 amp outlets down here, run soundboards and lights. There'll be 16 outlets around the stage there for plenty of plug-ins for band members and equipment. There's also some lighted bollards that are placed. The exact location is something that they'll work through the superintendent and through Ansley and Chad and the project team for exact placement, but the rough layout was kind of around the walking areas. So there's the allowance for some benches and trash cans that are placed around the oval here. We've got some future infrastructure coming in for up here, which will be the future bathrooms. So when we get to the later phase, that power and utilities doesn't have to be pulled to that location. It'll be ready to go. You can pour the pad and build and away you go. the GAB drive down here that we talked a little bit about last time. So this was part of the redesign effort for emergency vehicles and emergency personnel to be able to access here. You'll have a lighted parking lot, that's one, so we'll have 2 double fixtures, light poles in the parking lot. What else am I missing? Site power, so the site power was we were initially thinking about coming down here and across to the stage, but the shortest route and the way that not Georgia Power, who's
EMC,
Flint?
Flint,
EMC.
was to get, actually come from this service station that's just off the page a bit and come down this way through the stage. So that's where we're at right now and that would be overhead power. But there is the option to look into to underground power too. That there's allowance money there that's available. So again, the allowances are something that, you know, what we don't use comes straight back to the city. So it's, if there's an excess or a surplus, it comes back to you. Doesn't come to us or to our subs. So, and then we landed right at $1,133,972 for Heritage Park. So we had a really successful bid day. So we had 19 bids across 6 packages. So that was an average of 3.2 bidders. Our site work contractor is wound up as Meeks Grading, so they have both parts. There's some fill dirt that will be taken from Heritage Park over to Legacy, so that saved us some cost being able to bundle these together and see some discounts there. So, but I think we wound up having, I think it was five different bids for our site work for the 2 parts. There was a lot of interest in it, so it was very successful bid day.
How large is the overhead for the,
Overhead for the,
I see the lighting.
I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. Can I come peek at your screen?
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, but
And so the lighting's not actually on this drawing, so we do have like a lighting that it's not here, but we do have a lighting like scope of work and the overall layout that we put together that we can provide to you. No, ma'am, it's not in here. So if you'd like to see that,
I would like to see it.
we can certainly get you a copy. I just can't provide it right now.
I kept looking for it. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any more council member have anything? Question need action? Ms. Gilmore, you have anything?
Does this include the sail cover for the stage?
It does. So, and in this package, which that's a great question. So in this package, so the first page right here and the second page after our cover letter is actually the bid tabs from the bid day. But the alternates here, so the ones marked yes are the alternates that we, as a group collectively, were decided to take. And then the page after that are the project allowances, and all of the totals that you'll see under project allowances are under this guaranteed maximum price right here. So,
Well, if there are no more questions, we want to thank y'all for coming and giving us, showing us.
Legacy.
we got one more
One more part.
You're just happy with that one price, right?
Great job, guys.
So in Legacy Park, so again, it's the same layout and the same design as we showed last time. Some of the things that did change was that the landscaped areas here, we did take the alternate to irrigate those, so those will all be irrigated. Also, there's some additional sod and irrigation that will be, right here at the Main Street and Carroll Street curve around the Sinclair station. That was kind of decided as when you're coming into town, that's the corner that you see first. So seeding straw was probably not gonna be the greatest look for us for a little while. And, that's how we arrived at that decision. But here is if you remember, we talked about the reflecting pool. So the reflecting pool is covered in that price. The price that you see here, which we arrived at $625,186. So we do have the pool covered in there in an allowance. We've got electrical as well covered in there as allowance. So you'll have, 2 of the street lamps that match downtown. We've also, have some flagpole lights for 3 flagpoles, and I'm trying to think of what else we had in there.
Certified.
And
You
some
had power to the
yeah,
pool.
we had power to the pool, we had some, I think we had an outlet down here for the picnic area as well. So, again, on the alternates, so there was the 2 that we decided to take were marked as yes, which was the sod and irrigation there, and that we talked about at Main Street, Carroll Street, and then the irrigation that was provided for the landscaped areas. And that next page is the allowances that are, again, covered under this number. So the reflecting pool obviously being the big number there. And then we've got some benches and trash cans here, and then there's picnic tables for the picnic area right here. And then the other allowance there was to come back and reseed. So they'll hydro seed this area. This is actually the limited construction right here, this line. And for those over here that can't see, is this line here is the limits of construction. So this area will be seeded and strawed. And that number at the bottom is for them to come back and do that again in the springtime. Because of the time that we wind up planting. Next page is and we have these for both parks. I didn't go over it for Heritage, but this is the breakdown of the bid packages. Electrical is left up top. That is an allowance. So that is the breakdown for cost by bid package right there. You also see the allowances at the bottom, so in the totals.
Anyone have any questions at this time? Mr. Gilmore?
Mr. Chairman, if you don't have any questions, I'd recommend to council, they concur to proceed, but getting into the contract with Parish for the guaranteed max.
Reasons?
Yes, very much so.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Or B, Community Development Department. Ms. Myers.
Mayor, President, Council, good evening. I am coming to you guys with a little bit of our Main Street program rebranding, and kind of just a whole little facelift and identity for downtown logo. So, the importance of downtown branding, the new brand that we're kind of going to be talking to you guys about tonight is a way to tell our downtown story while highlighting our unique and historic assets. Downtown is the heartbeat of our city and several of our current events. It is also a hub for attracting restaurants, retail, and new opportunities. So all of the new development and growth that we're trying to spur downtown, this will hopefully help add to that vibrancy. Branding also allows us to market and promote downtown at a higher level. So, Main Street, our promotions committee, and our Main Street Advisory Board took the time to look at what other communities are doing. I personally visited several of these communities as well, and so this is kind of giving you that contrast of their city brand versus their downtown brand. So Milledgeville, and then their Main Street, Bainbridge, and Valdosta, it kind of just brings that fun, unique, differentiation of their downtown and their brand and their shopping, et cetera. So, looking at that, this is our current Main Street brand. And so a few things that we looked at when we were looking at kind of trying to form an identity of our downtown and our Main Street program was, does our current brand really showcase what we were trying to highlight downtown? So is it vibrant? Is it welcoming? When you look at it, is it something that you get excited about? Is it something that the community gets excited about? And so that is what kind of spurred the next two examples. So this is the first one that we've kind of come up with. This was kind of our first run through. If you look at it, the Perry, it's very historic, talking about choosing local. It also includes different assets of our current city brand, so the Mac Point. But what is really fun about it is the fact that it does have those downtown historic facades that you can kind of look at and think, oh, that is downtown Perry. So this was option one, and then we kind of built upon it. We thought it's really cohesive. I've talked to Ellen, communications manager, a lot about it, since she's been spearheading our branding here at the city. We do want something that probably is a little more cohesive, so that when you do look, you do still think of the city itself, which is what led us to option number two. This logo is very similar to the one that we just looked at, but Perry, the font of the Perry is the same font of the city. You can kind of see that comparison in the next slide. So we have our downtown, which is vibrant and fun and exciting and sets it apart from the rest of the city, because also our downtown sets us apart from the rest of the county as well, which is really exciting. So we'll be able to use this logo on all of our Main Street swag, promotional items, and just kind of telling the story of our downtown. So we're really excited about that. And then this would kind of be like the letterhead, etc. Still very professional, but fun, inviting, something to get really excited about. So I'm just presenting this to you all. You're welcome to choose between the first and second option. Staff recommendation is whatever is more on Perry brand, obviously, and kind of goes along with what we currently have. So just food for thought, but we would like to be able to use it, so. Again,
Let's see what the council has to say. William, what you got?
I like it in general. I'm wondering, could you do some work on the buildings to make it more reflective of downtown?
okay. The answer to that is yes, we can also do that as well.
Robert?
I would agree with what William said. As far as the two options, I do like the second one a little better because I feel like the Perry, the font is consistent with what the brand also is across the board. I know consistency is key, so that's how I feel.
I like the general idea, and I like the font, but I don't like the buildings. They need some work.
Okay, so we will work on the buildings and then bring back another option. Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Four C. Office of the City Manager. Mr. Gilmore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. In your packet is a memo from me. This is following up on Councilmember Hunt's August 6th pre-council inquiry. You may remember talking about the crosswalk at First Baptist Church. And what I provided to you in that email is an attachment showing what had been done previously, which was to redo and mark the crosswalks at First and Swift Street and First and Commerce Street, and put up some signs, put up some signs for children to play and that type of stuff. One of the last ones we showed, and you may remember this had been brought up for discussion, but there was no action taken by the council, would be to install a crosswalk at the intersection of Carroll Alley and First Street. You have that location in front of you there. That complies with our current requirements. I spoke with Mr. Hunt on that today. His preference would be having one moving closer, basically between the crosswalk we're proposing and Swift Street, but that would not comply with your regulations. The reason he was talking about that was for the children coming over to the playground area. But he thought that the location at Carroll Alley would be okay. He would certainly prefer that rather than having nothing. So the administration's recommendation to you would be to authorize that crosswalk at Carroll Alley. Now, it'll be on the side that you see of Carroll Alley. We don't want to have any other, because that might be a little closer to the playground, but you run into problems with the drive coming out of the church. Right there, we want to avoid that.
That's fine, just long as it's not in the center of the, this is fine. I think that's works well for all our citizens, not just the church.
Well,
And it's, the proposed option from city managers within DOT guidelines as well.
Yes.
Whereas the request from the church was not. So if we're talking about safety, I think we would adhere to DOT standards, and so I would be fine with management's proposal.
we, Mr. Gold, next item.
Next time.
Yes.
In your packet, and if you don't mind, I'll just pass that down. These are slightly larger maps to give you an idea of what we are talking about. In your packet, we had a request from a property owner, or soon-to-be property owner, at 1032 Cherokee Road, wanting to know if the city would be interested in selling a portion of its park so that that parcel would have a larger backyard. If you take a look at the smaller, more direct photo that was given to you, you can see that the previous owner of the golf course had sold some additional footage on properties to the residents on Cherokee. Everybody remember when they had that, I think, discussion? So you can see there's a line of parcels where they did do that additional purchase. The other thing I wanted to point out, and you can also see it up in this corner right here, is that if you are inclined to honor this request, it really does not impact our park at all. Everybody see where that is? It's up in the upper corner. It's kind of an awkward type of spot and everything, and won't impact anything that we're going to be doing. So the administration's recommendation to you, if you are so inclined, is to authorize the sale of that one, will be the squared off portion, to line up with that lot. I would suggest we set the minimum price at what we pay per acre, whatever that translates out. And also with this, before the city attorney gets on my case too bad, this does have to go out to bid. And we will advise, or they already have advised perspective, but that's the regular process when you do that. In other words, you're declaring that portion of property surplus, and as such, then it goes out to bid. Now, you have the right to accept or reject any bids that come in for just about any reason. So if it doesn't make any sense, you see what I mean, that you would say no. I don't know how many people would be interested in purchasing it other than the immediate property owner, with it being landlocked. See what I mean? You don't want traffic going through our park, you know, and all that kind of stuff, but that is a legal process you need to go through.
Squaring off here, or
No, just squaring off to line up with the property was cleared up. Yeah. Now, of course, sometime later that may come up, but this would just be the line up.
We, let's go.
Thank you.
And next item, number 5, Councilmember Allen. Ms. Jackson, yeah. Ms. Jackson?
Yeah.
Ms. Gilman?
Yes, I do have one item, council members. I'm not sure if you are aware of this, but there is a request has been made to the city to annex property on Langston Road, which is immediately adjacent to, I believe, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, the new school. The new subdivision's
correct.
coming in, I think, what, 115 acres?
That's correct.
Okay. That's going through the usual process, you'll get it, so on and so forth. The Hudson County Board of Commissioners, when it took the review, indicated they had no objections to the annexation. However, They stated that they wanted to have a water capacity study done, which will be the responsibility of the developer, to do an assessment relative to what the additional proposed homes would have on the impact of their water system. And the second thing was that if improvements to the water system are required, then the city or the developer would have to pay for that, either in a lump sum or over some appropriate fee structure. As you all may or may not remember, in the service agreement, it states that this is an area where water is provided by the county. What I'd like to recommend to council, if you have no objections, is that administratively we proceed about going ahead and getting a determination about where we can possibly do some swap-offs and extend our own water systems to serve some of these neighborhoods served by the county. My concern with this is that there could wind up being a whole bunch of reasons and stuff that has to be done on the county's water system, and they're saying the city has to pay for it. And if we can avoid that, I think that we should. So, for example, we would take a look at, and well, we still do water stuff. Okay, that's requested. That can't hurt. But then we also take a look at extending out our water mains so that we pick up and take off the some of the subdivisions, like off of Kerr Road. You know, just put them in our system and do that trade-off. And we do that as much as possible. Now, luckily, with your infinite foresight, we are already well on our way constructing a new water plant to help take care of that load, so we're not anticipating that that's going to be a problem. But I don't, if we can help it, I don't want us to, number one, have to pay for all the improvements that the county would have to have on its water system, or that there could be a large burden, maybe not the whole cost, but a large burden on us to make improvements. As far as I can tell from the letter, I think the county would be fine. Its standpoint, which I do understand, is that it has its own water supply issues. You know, may have to do some improvements. There could be some water mains. You see what I mean? All that type of stuff. So they would like to have a pretty good handle about what's going to be happening and what the impact is. And the other thing I think which affects them too is that they provide water to us, they provide water to their own customers, they provide water to the city of Warner Robins. So I don't think this is anything particularly new. It's a good idea for planning, but I would like to have us, now we may not need to do this, let me back up on that, but I'd like to have us set and ready to go with this.
So what you want from us tonight? You want to?
Just that you all concur to go ahead and make the study. There wouldn't be any capital work or that type of stuff done, but just come back and say, okay, here's phase one if you're interested in, here's an estimated cost, do you want to go ahead and proceed with it?
We. Let's go.
Thank you.
You have anything?
No, sir.
Mr. Manager, do you have anything?
No, sir, Mayor Pro Tem, thank you.
Ms. Miller?
Yes, sir.
Department head. Ms. King?
Nothing, sir.
Ms. Wade, Rec Department, you have anything for us? Chief Lee?
Nothing tonight, sir, thank you.
Chief Park?
Nothing tonight, sir.
Ms. Palmer?
I do. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I just want to remind you that your city is starting soon. We have pretty much a full class. We could probably take a couple more if you know any last minute people that want to apply, but we have a great group. I'm really excited about it. So it will start September 5th. This is the mayor and council night. So I hope you have it on your calendar. It will start at 5. We will serve dinner. It's from 5 to 7:30, and it should be on your calendars. I sent you an email, so just want to remind you one more time. We'll do the whole introductions, question and answer. It was a great time last year. I know the participants really loved getting to meet you all and sitting and eating with you and being able to ask questions and just getting to know you all a little bit better. So we're excited to get started, and I think that's all. Thanks.
Mr. Wood, you have anything?
Yes, sir, I do. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. I have 3 items for you. First, I just wanted to give you a notice that the housing team last week set Saturday, November 9th as the cleanup date for their fall cleanup, and that will be in the Creekwood neighborhood. And that will begin at 9 p.m. Checking to see if we can get the Creekwood Pavilion, so more information will come out on that. Secondly, there are a couple of items. One is regarding the new water plant that the manager mentioned earlier. They are under construction. The building itself has gone vertical, and they're about to get started with a water tank, a ground level water tank that will go out there. It's going to be about twice the height or size.
500,000 gallons tank. It will be twice the size of the one at the current water plant we have, and it'll probably be about 12 feet high at the highest point. So you'll be able to see a good portion of that from the road.
Okay. So the issue is that it has to be painted, and the question was about color. I think someone suggested white. That would make it easy to see clean it. There was a question about whether we wanted to do it in the green like the one over off of San Nun. There's issues with that where the leaching of the concrete comes out, you can see it fades. I went out and looked at the building itself. I think probably a lighter color is going to be more appropriate, and I would suggest looking at the light gray that is on the building. So it's not quite white, it's not going to be quite as stark as a white, but it's a really light gray. So that's what we would suggest. If you want to take some time to take a look at that or think about that, we do need to have something pretty soon, but.
Yes, we'll have our next meeting in September, and we will need to give them an answer. It should be the first week of September, or I'm sorry, the second week of September. So.
But you can see the building itself is split face block. It's a light gray and a medium gray stripe line. So if you go out and take a look, you can see that. And my thought is, you don't really want to match. There was a comment about putting white with blue stripe because there's going to be some blue accents on the building. But I think, in my view, it would be better to do just one color and just match one of the colors that's on the building. If the lighter color is more appropriate, then that's what I would suggest.
I'd go ahead and say go for it.
Go for it.
As recommended. Yeah.
Okay, light color, okay?
You want to say something?
Totally in agreement with Mr. Jackson, just have it all same type of deal, and we're okay with that.
Okay.
Sound like a winner.
All right, and we'll, got that.
I got it.
The second item the last item I wanted to mention is, I was at the RATS Policy Committee meeting last week, and they are beginning to update their long-range transportation plan for the RATS area. And so they are anticipating sometime by the end of the year, first of the year, that we would be providing them with any transportation improvements that we want to see in the plan. Besides the extension of the Perry Parkway into a loop, I'm thinking expansion of or widening of Langston Road is probably going to be an area that we need to be thinking about. And also, they're going to have a multimodal aspect to this plan, so we'll get our trail system in that. But if you can be thinking over the next couple of months of any other transportation improvements, road widenings, new roads, intersections that are problems that you want to be a part of that plan, please let me know about that. And that's all that I have. All right. Thanks.
Mr. Wood?
Nothing tonight, sir.
Chad?
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Paul, you have anything?
No, sir, I'm good, thank you.
Ms. Miles, anything?
No, sir, not tonight.
Ms. Anderson, you have anything?
No, sir.
Anyone? If not, we stand adjourned.
Ellen.